Before we begin, let's first look at what we are expected to learn today. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do three important things. First, you should be able to classify functions as cubic, square root, or cube root based on their equations and graphs. Second, you should be able to sketch their graphs, whether you're doing it by hand or using technology. And third, you should be able to apply the functions in solving real life problems involving geometric dimensions and measurements. So today, we're not just going to memorize what these graphs look like, we're going to understand why they look the way they do, how they transform, and where we can actually use them. But before this, let's have a quick review of our previous lesson. A community wants to create a rectangular dog park beside a long concrete wall. Since the wall will serve as one side of the park, only the other three sides need fencing. The community has 40 meters of fencing available. What dimensions will produce the maximum possible area of the dog park? Okay, first, let us create a free body diagram of our problem. So this is the concrete wall. This will be the width. So we have 2W and this is the length. The perimeter is given, and that is 40 meters. This will be used for the fencing. So we can see from our free body diagram that the perimeter 40 meters will be used for two widths and one L. If we wish to solve for the value of L, we're going to move 2W on the other side. So it will become L is equal to 40 minus 2W. We are going to use this equation later. Next, let us recall the formula for the area of a rectangle, and that would be length times width. If we are going to solve the area in terms of the width, we are going to substitute 40 minus 2W for L here. So area in terms of the width is equal to 40 minus 2W. That is the equivalent of our length. And then copy W. Then we're going to distribute W. W times 40, that would be 40W. W times negative 2W is negative 2W squared. I'll write it first. Negative 2W squared plus 40W. So since this is negative, it means that our parabola opens downward. So the maximum occurs at the vertex. And we are going to use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. Just in this case, we're going to use w. This is the x coordinate of our vertex. Our b here is 40 and our a is negative 2. So let us substitute them. So we have 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and then negative 40 divided by negative 4 is positive 10. So the width is 10 meters. Now let us use this formula here. Let's substitute 10 for W. So we have 2 times 10 is 20, and 40 minus 20 is 20. So the length is 20 meters. Now to solve for the area, again, area is equal to length times width. Our L is 20, our W is 10. 20 times 10 is 200. So the maximum possible area is 200 square meters. Now let's have a little challenge, graph or bluff. Match each graph with its corresponding parent function, linear, quadratic, cubic, square root, or cube root. You already know about the linear and quadratic. So this one is the linear. Y is equal to x. How about this one? This is y equals the cube root of x. While this one here is y equals x cubed. This is a parabola, so therefore y equals x squared. And the last one here is y equals is square root of x. As you look at the graphs, don't immediately try to calculate anything. Instead, ask yourself, what does the graph look like? Is it an S-shaped curve? Does it begin at a particular point and continue only in one direction? Or does it look like a more gradual S-shaped curve? Those visual clues will help you distinguish among cubic, square root, and cube root functions. Now, let's start with the cubic function. We have here y is equal to x cubed. The function form f of x is equal to x cubed. We're going to graph this one. I'm going to need the Cartesian plane and table of values. So I have here negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. I have negative values of x, 0, and positive values of x. To solve for the y values, I'm just going to substitute the x values one by one in our function. So let's start with negative 2. Negative 2 cubed is negative 8. So our point is negative 2, negative 8. Let's plot that. Negative 2 and negative 8. That would be here. Next one, our x is negative 1. Substituting it here, negative 1 cubed is still negative 1. So the point is negative 1, negative 1. Let's plot it. This is 0, this is negative 2. So right at the middle is negative 1. And then 0, negative 2, right at the middle is negative 1. Negative 1 must be here. Next x value is 0. Let us substitute 0 here. 0 cubed is still 0. So the point is at 0, 0 or the origin. Next x value is 1. 1 cubed is still 1. So 1 and then 1 somewhere here. Next x value is 2. Substituting 2 cubed is equal to 8. So the point is 2, 8, positive 2, and then 8. It's here. Now let us connect these points, and here is our graph. This is the graph of the mother function f of x equals x cubed. Notice that the function accepts every real number as the input, meaning we can assign any negative x values as well as any positive x values and 0. If that's the case, it means our domain is the set of all real numbers. Judging from the graph, as this moves indefinitely going down, this will also go wider and wider. So that means every x values has a corresponding graph. That's why the domain is the set of all real numbers. And because the outputs also cover all real numbers, negative, 0, and positive, the range is also the set of all real numbers. Looking at the graph, this will extend indefinitely downward and upward. So it means every negative y values, there is a corresponding graph. Same thing with every positive y values, there would be a corresponding graph. That's why the range is the set of all real numbers. Now let us determine our x-intercept. Since the graph crosses the x-axis at 0, 0, that would be our x-intercept. Remember that an intercept is a point, so we should express it as ordered pair. Now let's determine the y-intercept. The graph also intersects the y-axis at the origin, so it means also 0, 0. Now let us test the symmetry. We're going to test if this is symmetrical with the y-axis. It means if we are going to fold the Cartesian plane here, these two parts go inside. These two parts do not go inside. So this means this is not symmetrical with respect to the y-axis. Now let us test if this is symmetrical with respect to the origin. And how do we do that? We say that a graph is symmetrical with respect to the origin if when the graph is rotated 180 degrees, it will appear as the original one. Let us test that. So I have here our function f of x equals x cubed. Let's rotate it 180 degrees. Yes, and since the graph after rotating 180 degrees looks the same as the original, it means this graph is symmetric with respect to the origin. If that is the case, then this is an add function. To test further, it is an add function if f of negative x equals negative f of x. Let us prove this one. So we are given f of x is equal to x cubed. Now we are going to replace x by negative x. So I'm going to replace this with negative x, also this one with negative x. And quantity negative x cubed is also negative x cubed. This one here, x cubed, is our f of x. So I can rewrite this as negative f of x. So we're able to prove that f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. This is indeed an add function, and again, it is symmetric with respect to the origin. Now, what can you say about the shape of our graph? The most recognizable feature is its S shape. It passes through the origin and continues indefinitely in both direction, going up and going down. So as our x approaches positive infinity, our y also approaches positive infinity. And as our x approaches negative infinity, our y also approaches negative infinity. Now let's see what happens when we transform our graph. The transformation form of this one is y equals a times the quantity x minus h raised to the third power plus k, where a here cannot be equal to 0. Because if this is 0, this whole term will be cancelled out. This will just be y equals k. It will no longer be a cubic function. For this part, I'm going to use GeoGebra to show you the transformation. This is the interface of GeoGebra, and I have already encoded our different functions here. Let's start with our mother function. We have f of x equals x cubed. I've already shown you earlier how this graph was formed. Now, what if I'm going to add plus 3? Take a look what will happen. Our inflection point, 0, 0, the origin, move 3 units up. Let's go back to our original graph. Now, what happened if I added negative 1? See what happens? So from 0, 0, inflection points move to 0, negative 1. Let's go back to our mother function. Now, what if I add negative 4 inside the parentheses? So from the mother function x, I made it x minus 4. Take a look what happened. So our inflection point 0, 0 moved to 4, 0. So when we added minus 4 here, our graph moved 4 units to the right. Why does it go to the right if it is negative 4? Because if you're going to equate this to 0, x minus 4 equals 0, x equals positive 4. Let's go back to our mother function. Now, what if I added positive 2 inside the parentheses? Take a look what happened. The graph now moved to the left by 2 units. Again, x plus 2 equals 0, x equals negative 2. So the original graph, the mother function, will move 2 units going to the left. Okay, going back to our mother function. Now, what if I made our mother function x cubed negative x cubed? Look what happens. Our mother function reflects across x axis. This portion is translated here, while this portion of the original function translated here. Now, what if I added 2 in front of x cubed? So from x cubed, I made it 2x cubed. Look what's happened. So the mother function, the black one, it's supposed to go up at this position. Since we added 2, it goes up immediately. So the graph now is steeper. Now, what if instead of greater than 1, I added in front less than 1 but greater than 0, like 1/2? What will happen? So from our mother function, going up now becomes slower. So these are the different transformation that could happen to our function y equals x cubed. Let me create a table for this one. We have the parameter, transformation, and what to look for. I always tell my students to start with k. So our first parameter is k, and this is the vertical shift. So it moves the graph up or down. Let's recall our graph earlier in GeoGebra. When I added positive 3 here, our mother function, the black one, moved 3 units going up. That's the orange one. But when I added -1, the matter function moves 1 unit going down, the red one. So the K controls the movement up and down. Next parameter is the H. This one is the horizontal shift. It moves the graph left or right. Let's recall our graphs earlier. Here is our matter function, the black one. When I replace x with quantity x minus 4, our graph moves 4 units to the right. But when I replace x with quantity x minus 2, our matter function moved 2 units going to the left. So the h here controls the movement of the graph left or right. Next parameter is the a. It controls the reflection as well as vertical stretch and compression. So it changes the orientation and vertical scale. Here are some important things to remember about A. First, if the absolute value of A is greater than 1, the graph is vertically stretched by a factor of the absolute value of A. Do you still remember when I wrote 2 in front of our mother function? This becomes 2x cubed. What happens to the graph? That is the green one. It becomes steeper. As if our mother function, the black one, was stretched vertically. It becomes steeper. The rising becomes faster. But remember, when I place 1/2 in front of x cubed, 1/2 is less than 1 but greater than 0. That produces the blue graph. What happened to the original graph, the black one? It becomes flatter. So rising up becomes slower, as if it was vertically compressed by a factor of the absolute value of 1/2. Now, what happened when I place negative in front of x cubed? So when it is negative, it means our a is less than 0. Let's recall our graph. It makes our graph reflect across the x-axis. Now, if our a is equal to 1, then there is no vertical stretch or compression or even reflection. And the most important transformation, our inflection point 0, 0 moves to point HK. So when you see a transformed cubic, HK immediately tell you where its inflection point has moved. Now let's apply what we just learned. We are going to graph y equals -2 quantity x minus 2 cubed plus 3. Let us recall our transformation form. Y is equal to a quantity x minus h cubed plus k. From here, we can easily determine that the value of a is -2, the value of h is +2, and the value of k is +3. Let's recall the graph of y equals x cubed. Now let's start with k. +3 here means 3 units up. So from our inflection point 0, 0, it should be at 0, 3. Let's see that. It moves 3 units up. Next, our h here, 2, means it moves 2 units to the right. From here, it will move 2 units to the right, 1, 2. So the inflection point should be here at 2, 3. Next one, these 2 here will stretch our graph by a factor of 2. Let's do that. Stretching the graph by a factor of 2, it will become steeper. And finally, this negative here will make our graph reflects across the x-axis. Let's reflect this graph. It will be like this. Now from here, let us determine our domain and range. A cubic function and its transformations continue indefinitely in both directions. So our domain is still the set of all real numbers. And for the range, since this one will extend indefinitely going down and going up, meaning there will be graph for all y values. Is still the set of all real numbers. And from 0, 0 earlier, our inflection point is now at 2, 3. That is our HK. Now let's move to our second parent function, y equals the square root of x.